After seriously considering a 2025 Ram 1500, there were some pretty concerning quality issues that I noticed that ultimately led me to not buy one. One of these issues was pretty alarming, and it makes you wonder what else was put together wrong. I'm not saying all Rams have these problems, I'm just telling you the quality issues I spotted while looking at them. The Tungsten in particular is my favorite Ram model and the one I looked at the most. With a sticker price around $90,000, they're definitely not cheap. But they do discount them pretty heavily, sometimes about $20,000 off sticker, and you wouldn't think they would sell that well being a luxury truck. But for low 70s, you get the nicest interior in its class with really high quality materials, as well as a class-leading 540 horsepower straight 6 with 521 pound-feet of torque, and the price is about the same as other top-trim trucks. First, the paint quality in these trucks is really bad, to be honest. The orange peel is the worst out of any full-size truck, and frankly, some of the worst I've seen on any new car. The body panels have almost a wave of orange peel when you look at them, and it only becomes more apparent on darker colors. I'm not sure if it's because the panels are large, or if it's just low quality. On the white, it's not super noticeable because paint imperfections don't show up as much on light colors. But the black is really wavy with very noticeable orange peel. It's not like just one truck had this wavy paint. Pretty much all of them do, so it's just something you have to live with. I've looked at several of these on different lots, and they're all the same. Doors, bedsides, tailgates, even the hoods. It's like the clear coat just wasn't laid down evenly. The reflections don't look clean or sharp at all, especially on the black ones. You can tell it wasn't a one-off mistake or just a bad day at the factory. This is just how they come. But if you take a look at Ford, GM, or Toyota, the paint is pretty even. And although they have orange peel too, it's not nearly as bad. This seemed to be a common theme with the trucks with dual exhaust. The exhaust tips were misaligned with the bumper, which you can pretty easily spot when looking at the back of the truck. On more than one that I saw, one exhaust tip would stick about 1 inch beyond the bumper, while the other would be recessed about 1 inch inside of the bumper, so the entire exhaust system was crooked. It's one of those things that once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Now, I'm not sure if the system moves around when you drive over bumps, since it's pretty much mounted with only rubber hangers, or if it's supposed to have that much play, or if it can easily be realigned. But either way, this wasn't just on one truck. I checked a few others just to see if it was a fluke, and no, quite a few of them had this issue. Some were worse than others, but most of them had uneven exhaust tips. It kind of gives the truck a cheap, unfinished look from the back, especially when you're paying for that dual exhaust in the form of a higher trim level. It just doesn't look like something that left the factory fully dialed in. This one was pretty surprising. When looking at the trucks on the lot, I came across a 2025 Ram that appeared to be a Tungsten. It had the same grille, the same one-piece bumper that's signature to the Tungsten, the same 22-inch wheels, and it had the Tungsten indigo and sea salt interior. Only the badge on the side indicated that it was a Limited. This didn't make sense, because there's a clear difference between the Tungsten and the Limited. Well, the badge on the other side did in fact say Tungsten. So one side had a Limited badge, and one side had the correct Tungsten badge. It's like whoever was in charge of putting on the trim badges at the factory was only half paying attention, and they just grabbed the wrong one. But it really makes you wonder, if they messed up something as obvious as the exterior trim badge, which is literally how the truck identifies itself, what else did they rush or get wrong? Did they mix up other parts during assembly? Did they grab the wrong engine? Wrong wiring harness? Other wrong trim pieces? It's not like this is a small detail tucked away somewhere. It's right there on the side of the truck. And it's not even a cheap base model. This is a top trim truck that's supposed to represent the best they offer. Seeing a mistake like that kind of shakes your confidence in the overall quality control. This next one was a problem I spotted on more than one truck. The chrome trim that runs down the side of the truck wasn't aligned where it went from the rear door panel to the bed panel, specifically. On one Tungsten, the trim was off by about 1 inch on one side. On the other side, it lined up pretty well. Expecting perfection is a little unreasonable, especially for a truck, but having 1 inch difference between the trim pieces is pretty ridiculous in my opinion. It's not like this is some small, hard-to-see area either. It's a long strip of chrome that runs the length of the truck, so when it doesn't line up, it sticks out. And once you see it, you don't really unnotice it. It throws off the whole side profile. It's obvious that they didn't even bother to make sure they aligned the trim properly when they stuck it on. I saw this on more than just one truck, too, which makes it seem like it's not just a one-off assembly error. It kind of gives off a rushed, good enough vibe. On high-end trim like the Tungsten, where you're clearly paying a premium for extra styling, and people are paying attention to detail, otherwise, why would you be buying one? stuff like this really shouldn't be happening. On a limited model I'd looked at, part of the interior door panel had fallen off up near the side view mirror, so when you opened the door, there was a big hole there. It was one of those plastic trim pieces that covers the hardware or wiring near the side mirror. Nothing major mechanically, but definitely something you'd expect to be intact on a brand new truck that's $80,000. When I mentioned it to the salesman, he basically said, "Don't worry about it," like it was no big deal for a new truck. Just kind of brushed it off like it happens all the time. Now maybe someone ripped it off or messed with it, but it wasn't a spot where you'd normally touch or even reach for, so it makes me think that it just fell off as someone shut the door, or it wasn't installed properly in the first place. The clips might have been loose, or it just never got snapped in all the way at the factory. Regardless, it kind of makes me wonder what happened with it. If that part could just fall off sitting on the lot, what else could come loose after a few thousand miles? It's one of those little things that makes you second guess the attention to detail, or lack thereof. And again, this was a limited, not a base model. You'd think at that price point, stuff would be put together pretty well. On a positive note, the interiors generally seem pretty well put together, aside from that one panel that had fallen off near the mirror. The door panels and other interior panels felt solid and sturdy, with no signs of looseness or cheap materials. The leather seats were consistent across the board, with no noticeable defects or stitching issues. The center console, which is a spot that often rattles or feels flimsy in trucks, was solid and didn't give any creaks or squeaks when I pressed or leaned on it. I didn't hear any rattles or weird noises inside any of the trucks I checked out. Overall, the interior is definitely one of the highlights of these trucks. They put real effort into making the cabin comfortable and upscale. The exterior quality, on the other hand, didn't impress me nearly as much. Actually, quite the opposite. With that said, people who have bought 2025 Rams have reported some issues. The most common complaints revolve around misfires, check engine lights, and electronic problems causing chronically dead batteries. From what I've read, most of these problems come down to software glitches rather than mechanical faults. Still, having a check engine light pop up during your first day of ownership is frustrating to say the least, and it's happening to a ton of people. It's definitely something to consider when you're spending that much money. I do like the Ram trucks overall. They offer class-leading power and interiors, especially in the tungsten trim, which feels very high-end. But ultimately, I decided not to go with one. Not because of any one glaring problem, but because something else just ended up working out for me first. These can be really nice trucks. One thing that's worth remembering is that these new trucks aren't cheap no matter which trim level you go with. People don't expect absolute perfection, but they do expect reasonably good build quality for the price they're paying. When you're dropping that kind of money, little things like misaligned trim, paint issues, or software glitches really start to stand out. Sure, it's a truck, but an expensive and premium one, and there shouldn't be any glaring defects or common mechanical problems when they're new. So would these problems bother you?